No one's going to get in trouble, are they?
Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashacha Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sing along. Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladalaine. Hiranyakashipo Vakshaha. Hiranyakashipo Vakshaha. Shiva Sankana Kalaye. Shiva Sankana Kalaye. Ito Nashimha Bharato Nashimho. Yato Yamita Karna Shimho. Yato Yamita Karna Shimho. sharanam prapade. Java kara kamada varena kamadota shinga. Dalita hiranyakashipu Dhanuvringa Keshavadita Narahavirupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Nashingare, 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 Jaya Nashingare. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaurita ki, Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki.
Just give them, deep ones.
when you can prepare the barrier? I think we have to sweep first, you know? We will sweep it first. Okay. Like,
They'll go back to contact again. Because that lift. What about you? Do you want to go to sleep?
I've got to come up with Charlotte in here. Can you take that one?
First.
Yes, sir.
When I was filling in the application for being home of the accident and
Okay.
I'll sweep in here then. We don't have to do anything else. I'll just sweep it.
Be careful.
Oh. It's your morning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Huh? Thank you. Hmm? Yes, this one, yes, it's very nice.
Hare Krishna. Hare, you can hear me. This needs to be a little closer, like here. Thank you. Oh God, is this okay? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, for those who are joining us online, welcome to the Gita class tonight at the Bhaktivedanta Manor. We will be beginning with the Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you for tuning in. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanajari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jagatguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna, thank you all for joining us tonight. We will begin with the invocation prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Gana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vinnavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanjakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patita Nama Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jagatguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So today we will be reading from Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, text 8. Before I begin, I would like to request all the Vaishnavas to please give me your blessings and mercy so I can say what Prabhupada wants me to say from the bottom of my heart and try my best to be a humble servant and do this service diligently. Thank you so much for all your encouragement to allow me to do this class and for listening and for tuning in tonight. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Text 6.8. Please repeat. Jnana Vijnana Traptatma
Jnana Vijnana Triptatma
Kutastito Vijitendriya
Tasso Vijitendriya
Yukta iti uchate yogi
Yukta iti uchate yogi
Samalostrasmama kanchana
Samalostrasma kanchana
Jnana Vijnana Triptatma
Jnana Vijnana Triptatma
Kutasto Vijitendriya
Tasso Vijitendriya
Yukta iti uchate yogi
Yukta iti uchate yogi
Samalostrasma kanchana
Samalostrasma kanchana
Jnana Vijnana Triptatma
Jnana Vijnana Triptatma
Kutasto Vijitendriya
Tasso Vijitendriya
Yukto iti uchate yogi
Yukta iti uchate yogi
Samalostrasma kanchana
Samalostrasma kanchana
Jnana by acquired knowledge, Vijnana the realized knowledge, Tripta satisfied, Atma a living entity, Kutastita spiritually situated, Vijita Indriya sensually controlled, Yukta competent for self-realization, Iti thus, Uchate is said, Yogi a mystic, Sama equipoised, Lostra pebbles, Asma stone, Kanchanaha gold. Just because of time, I will just read everything so that we can get to the subject matter. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Purport. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Ataha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grayam indriye sevan mukhe hi jivadu swayam eva spurati adaha. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. So I was speaking to a senior Vaishnav and I was explaining to her that, like every text we study, it sort of becomes relevant to our particular circumstance in life or that particular day. And today I was speaking to my sister-in-law after a very long time, and she was telling me, I was asking her, how is her reading going? And she was saying it's going really well. And I was asking her what books she was reading. So she was saying Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And she said, and then I said, wow, that's wonderful. Can you understand it? And the funny thing is that she said, no, she can't understand it. She actually needs the help of my brother, her husband, to actually discuss it. And that's when she starts to even get a little bit. So from this purport, is there any point that you can get that you feel describes what a Krishna conscious person is?
It's saying that we can't become Krishna conscious by mundane scholarship. Sorry, the microphone is out of battery.
No worries, I can communicate.
So it's not from mundane scholarship.
It's not exactly. So if you look in the purpose, a Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna. So thank you so much, Abhi, for pointing that out. There are three key points I pulled out of this wonderful text, and I think it's better to go into it from the beginning, because then it gives us a little bit of structure in this talk. So the first point is productive knowledge. Knowledge with the application of service. As it says in the purport, book knowledge without realization of supreme truth is useless. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. For example, my sister-in-law could not understand the knowledge on her own, but by engaging in a service which is Krishna Katha, discussion of the books with my brother, was that point she reached. That was that point where she reached where she could try to understand with the help of the Vaishnavas. So also being in these discussions, being present in these classes is a service to ourselves and to the Vaishnavas to be able to understand the literatures. And also, we must have realized that whatever we do, whenever we read a book, it doesn't actually sink in until that knowledge you get in the book, you apply it in your certain service. You can't just read about being humble. You have to actually put it in application. Krishna will put you in an intolerant situation, and then you'll know you're not humble at all. And then two, another point I got out of this is the value of the spiritual master. one text that I was reminded about was Tad Vidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnanena Tattvadarshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching your spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto us because they have seen the truth. In this verse, it is clearly said, it is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold and to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. So from this text we can get that for a Krishna conscious person, their spiritual master, obtaining this knowledge from a higher supreme authority is very important, especially like a spiritual master who are the self-realized souls and they're completely surrendered to Krishna. The third point that we can extract from this text is that we're all mercy cases. It clearly says we require the grace of the devotees of the Lord. And this is explained in the purport where it says, where Srila Prabhupada says, this Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. You can't just sit at home and think, I'm going to have a nice, wonderful apartment, with incense sticks, lots of wonderful pictures, and you just sort of like sit there at home like a hermit. You have to come to the temple, you have to associate with the devotees, you have to render some service. And then that knowledge which you're reading becomes part of your practice. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge not simply by the individual assets, but by the grace of Krishna, because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. So here it's clearly stated by Prabhupada that we need the grace, we need the mercy of the Vaishnavas in order to realize this knowledge. And that is what transcendental knowledge is, that it will help us stick to our convictions. In the Nectar of Devotion, Krishna says, Rupa Goswami also clearly says that Krishna is very easily, he can give you liberation, but he will not give you devotional service very easily, because that requires, it captures his heart when you serve his devotees, when you please his devotees. So we all need to understand that, from this little text we can understand that how much knowledge we have, it doesn't depend on how many books we read. It might be how many books or how much knowledge we can share with others, whether it's just even one single sentence. But if that knowledge we can apply and share with more devotees, then we can really get their blessings and we can really get their prayers. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Text 3, 2.3.10, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 10, it says, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udharatihi Tivtrena bhakti yogena yaja puram sa param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Prabhupada in the purport says, Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as a means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of different varieties of worship. Everyone, therefore, must seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga. Akama is one who has no material desires. A living being, naturally being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, Purusham Purnam, has as his natural function to serve the Supreme Being, just as part and parcels of the body. Desireless means not to be inert like a stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position, and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Jiva Goswami explains desirelessness as bhajanya parama purusha sukha matra sva sukhatam in his sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned state of a living being in the material world. And such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism. By the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. So this sort of like theory, where you see people doing a lot of charity, but this is not the real happiness. They get a little bit of happiness, by giving charity or helping the need, but it's not solving the problem. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Rajabhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return. And this is the perfect exhibition of a kama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of al-kama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. So, that's a very high level, but most of the time in the mundane world, you always experience this. It's a condition, whether you have a relationship or whether you have family relatives, there's always a condition. What can you give me? What can you get out of this relationship? But the relationship we have with Krishna, basically like how the gopis had, it was unconditional. They just loved Krishna and they just wanted to serve him. They did not care what they would get out of it. There wasn't any false ego. It was just giving from the heart. So, what is the point of life if it is not spiritual? From this text, we can really extract that out, that even our knowledge has to be, you can gain so much shastric knowledge, it increases your false ego. But if you don't apply it in the service, which helps you to humble it down, that knowledge is not fruited. So what is the point of life if this knowledge cannot be spiritualized, right? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're given another example. Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 18. Do the trees not live? Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breed? All around us do the beasts not eat and discharge semen? The materialists want to prolong their life as much as possible because they have no information of the next life. They want to get maximum comforts in this present life because they think conclusively that there is no life after death. This ignorance about the eternity of living being and the change of the covering in the material world has played havoc in the structure of modern human society. So here Prabhupada is explaining that, what is the point of our life? What is the point of gaining so much knowledge in this material world if we cannot actually spiritualize it? Then it's just empty. He says, prolonged life without spiritual value is not very important. One may doubt that the trees have life because they do not breed, but modern scientists like Bose have already proved there is life in plants. The Bhagavatam says that the bellows of the blacksmith breathes very soundly, but that does not mean that the bellows has life. The materialists argue that life in the tree and life in the man cannot be compared because the tree cannot enjoy life by eating palatable dishes or by enjoying sexual intercourse. In reply to this, the Bhagavatam asks whether other animals like dogs, hogs, living in the same village with human beings do not eat and enjoy. The specific utterance of the Srimad Bhagavatam in regard to other animals means that persons who are simply engaged in planning a better type of animal life consisting of eating, breathing, mating, are also animals in the shape of human beings. A society of such polished animals cannot benefit suffering humanity, for an animal can easily harm animal but rarely do good. So what is actual good? Actual good is giving Krishna consciousness to the world. My Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Kadambakanana Swami Maharaj, explains, Bhakti is not about the white lines of rule and regulations. It is also about experiencing the wider landscape of relationships with Krishna. We are always in relationship to something. There's no question we are alone, but we are our real self when we are in a relationship, when we have a relationship with Krishna. Our real identity is that with Krishna, and that identity in devotional service. We stay on this path because this is the way we develop the relationship with Krishna. So like in that text, in the text, the first 3 points are saying that when knowledge is applied in service, this knowledge itself, if you just mundanely apply it without engaging in devotional service, you're not building your relationship with Krishna. So this is very important, how building a relationship through our service with Krishna captures Krishna's heart. And through that relationship with Krishna, everything of real value will come. Character and identity will come. Don't be ashamed to say we are in a conditioned state. I'm not God, I'm not perfect, I have faults. Even when we give up the objects subtly, like the material objects, we have an inner attachment. Therefore, we have a material relationship. And if we offer that material relationship to Krishna, for example, you can be attached to your mother. If you can give your mother to Krishna, that relationship becomes sort of like a relationship that you're a greater relationship, because you're trying to put Krishna in the center. So let's say your mom is that, my Guru Maharaj was explaining that you try to give your mother Maha, but she doesn't take it, Maha Prasadam, she's like, no, thank you. But then it doesn't work. So he said then you have to become Agent 007, and then you try to sneak in a little bit of Maha water. But he said somehow or another you have to give Krishna, because in the end our relationship with Krishna is all that counts. Somehow or another we have to give Krishna. And I was thinking about this, and I had a realization that the best way to practice this knowledge is what is one service that really allows us to absorb the knowledge. Like we read all these books, we do Bhakti Shastri course, but what is that instant service you do that immediately all the philosophy actually comes out? It's Sankirtan, when you go out for book distribution. And somehow or another, we act as agents of giving Krishna. And that's the actual good, because that's the, time, place, circumstance. You immediately been put in a situation by Krishna to see how much knowledge you actually have. And that becomes a service to your Guru Maharaj or to Srila Prabhupada. So this last weekend I had gone for a retreat, and I was in Birmingham, and we were doing Harinam on the streets. And it was wonderful, and we also did a little bit of book distribution. And I was thinking, how can all of a sudden we got out of books, we didn't have any books left. And I was thinking, oh my God, there's still so many people in this city. We were in a park. How can we ensure that we spread more knowledge about Krishna to every single person there? So I could see that there was this saxophone player. He was playing the saxophone, and he was sitting, and every single person could hear him. And all of a sudden, all the devotees sat down, and they were hungry, so they were getting prasadam, and they made a plate for me. And I got an idea. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the prasadam. I wasn't quite hungry, and I was like, I'll give it to the, to this individual who was playing the saxophone. And at that time, in my mind, I was thinking, how do you multiply this effect of Sankirtan? So by just giving him the prasad, in my mind I was thinking, if we give him the prasad, then for that certain time in his mind, his consciousness will be about Krishna. And through the saxophone that he's going to play, somehow or another, like Guru Maharaj said, you have to sneak in, right, Krishna. So give him prasad, he'll play the saxophone, and the saxophone will be heard all across the city, because it would touch people's heart. And that's exactly what happens, people will be able to hear Krishna. So sometimes we have to think bigger. And that's exactly what happened. I ran into another lady, she was smoking a cigarette. And she was sitting there, and I went to her and I was like, what do you like about smoking? She says, I don't like anything about smoking, I know it's poison. And she told me that the only thing that she liked was this man who was playing, the saxophone. And it touched her heart. And when she said that, then I knew that was the sign from Krishna that if you put a little bit of endeavor, just give prasadam, that itself is a little bit of Sankirtan. And then I continued my conversation. We were out of books, we didn't have books. So I sat there and I was just, asking questions to this lady. Why does she choose to smoke? And what's, I just kept listening to her. And my act of just sitting there and listening to her and continuing the conversation, in the end of the conversation, she said, "Thank you very much. That's all I needed." So there are simple things like that. Sometimes all you have to do is just be a good human being, and they'll automatically feel the love for Krishna. In the Nectar of Devotion it says, simply by hearing, simply by glancing, simply by speech, you can invoke the love, the ecstasy of Krishna in people's heart. And also today, I met this other man on the street. His name was Nigel. He was an old man. And I really wanted to give him a book, but he said that he couldn't read. So what I did was, I said, okay, you can't read, but I can read for you. So just by him sitting there and hearing, he was able to absorb. I'm not saying that I'm a pure devotee or anything, but somehow or another, you're trying to give Krishna, you're trying to sneak Krishna into people's lives. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says, Narada tells of his previous life, how he developed to the stage of ecstatic love. He was engaged in service of great devotees and used to hear their talks and songs. So simple things like that. He used to, because he had the opportunity to hear these pastimes and songs of Krishna from the mouths of pure devotees, he became very attracted within his heart. Because he became so eager to hear these topics, he gradually developed within himself an ecstatic love for Krishna. In this way, like the three different descriptions I gave, like in the first example of how I did a little bit Sankirtan was with the saxophone player, just giving prasadam. You sneak a little bit prasadam in someone's hand, and that's giving them Krishna. And then the other one was, I was sitting with the lady who was smoking a cigarette, and I was just trying to talk about Krishna to her. Because I think we had the Srimad Bhagavatam class when Jankinath Prabhu had left his body, and one of the speakers was saying that Krishna is even just a smile. When you smile, that is Sankirtan. Because that's Krishna, you're giving Krishna. And the third example where I met this old man, Nigel, who couldn't read, just reading for him and him being able to just hear about Krishna was the opportunity to help him develop love for Krishna. So in the Nectar of Devotion it says, sometimes, however, it is found that without undergoing any devotional process, one all of a sudden develops devotion for Lord Krishna. This sudden development of devotional attitude in a person must be understood as the special mercy of Krishna or of his devotee. This apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings through causeless mercy of Krishna can be divided into three groups. Simply by speaking, like when I was speaking to that lady about Krishna, simply by glancing, you can, I don't know if by glancing at prasadam you get mercy, but you could try to. And simply by good wishes, when you're out there doing Sankirtan, even though you don't have the books, but you still have in your heart that desire to give Krishna to everyone, just sneaking Krishna somehow. However, even beyond Sankirtan, I think the most purifying, and we're told Har Nam, Har Nam, Har Nam. Even when you're out in Sankirtan, your desire to do Sankirtan cannot be fulfilled if you're not chanting your rounds. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada says, this is a confirmation of the statement, Krishna Sakti Vinay Nahetara Parvatrana, referring to the following verse, Kali Kalena Dharmana Krishna Nama Sankirtana, Krishna Sakti Vinay Nahetare Parvartana. The fundamental religious system in the age of Kali is chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Unless empowered by Krishna, one cannot propagate the Sankirtan movement. This verse clearly indicates that Srila Prabhupada was empowered by Krishna or Shri Krishna Chaitanya, and thus was able to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. The same was done by Lord Chaitanya and Rupa Goswami, face to face and heart to heart. So the chanting of the holy name is also very important in grasping our knowledge of the Shastra. Though we're not qualified, we can always try to understand this knowledge, which is very important as well as your attitude, our service attitude, which is remaining a humble servant and trying to keep praying for the mercy of devotees, trying to keep endeavoring to do better, realizing that you're nothing, you're insignificant. We learn this every time we go out for Sankirtan, when you're put out there and, you're hit by different circumstances. Sometimes people are nice, sometimes people are not nice, but you have to continue being nice to them. We fail sometimes, we win, sometimes nothing happens, so we have to beg to Krishna to show us a way to give his love in the hearts of every living entity, and having strong faith, conviction, and desire to give Krishna so that, Krishna will help us. Srila Prabhupada says, as soon as you offer yourself to be enjoyed by Krishna as servant, according to his order you serve, then immediately you are in the spiritual world. If you want to remain in the spiritual world, this temple is the spiritual world. So as soon as we offer ourselves into that service, then Krishna will reveal the knowledge to us. Prabhupada says that. And I'd just like to end with this quote. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders, some absurdities, no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. You should begin it serenely and with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense. So what is this serenity? It is Krishna consciousness. It is too valuable to give up. This mood will help us encourage this mood of knowing that Krishna consciousness is very valuable, and we're really lucky to be here, to be able to have the opportunity to give Krishna to everyone, the love for God to everyone. This mood will help us encourage us to continue further and understand even the knowledge of Shastra more deeply when we realize that we have to give that knowledge, Srila Prabhupada says, in the human form, one should at least understand the goal of life and begin Krishna consciousness. It is said that the human form is a great boon because it is most suitable boat for crossing over Nescience ocean. The spiritual master is considered to be the most able captain in that boat, and the information from the scriptures is the favorable wind for floating over the ocean of nescience. The human being does not take advantage of all these facilities in this lifetime as committing suicide. Therefore, one does not begin Krishna consciousness in human form of life, loses his life to the influence of illusory energy. This human form of body is a most valuable boat, and the spiritual master a captain. Guru Karna Dharam, to guide the boat in plying across the ocean of nescience. The instruction of Krishna is the favorable breeze, the knowledge, So this completely gives us a wonderful description of how this text applies according, to this description that Prabhupada is giving us, that we can't apply the knowledge without the spiritual master, which is one of the 3 points that we discussed. And yes, we therefore need the mercy of the spiritual master in order to understand this knowledge and apply it in our service with all our hearts and with love. So I'd like to end my class there. Thank you so much for listening. Please forgive me for any shortcomings, mistakes. Hopefully I will improve it. If you have any questions, comments, chastisements, you're too tired to ask a question. You're like, Harka, I need to sleep. Sorry for running through the class, because
It's okay, no, it wasn't.
Times have changed, now we are doing class at, yeah. Okay, thank you. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Harika ki jai.
Abhi ki jai.